investigation we intend to conduct responsibly. We hope that people out there understand that this complaint only charges 2 individuals. These 2 individuals are presumed innocent, but we make no charges about any of the other people who are referenced in the complaint, those not by name. And people should not cast aspersions on people who are discussed with wiretap or plug tapes for conduct when other people are scheming to figure out how to approach them for different things. We hope you'll bear that in mind and not cast aspersions on people for being named or being discussed or if you learn they're being interviewed. The other part is that I think this is a moment of truth for Illinois. In all seriousness, we have times when people decry corruption, and yet here we have a situation where there appear to be wide-ranging schemes where people were seeking to make people pay contributions to get contracts or appointments or do other stuff. The FBI and their sister agencies at Postal, IRS, and the Department of Labor have done a magnificent job. They will continue to work very, very hard. But what we really need is cooperation from people who are not in law enforcement. The people outside who heard or saw things or were approached in ways that felt uncomfortable. If they felt uncomfortable and they think this is not how you run a government, they ought to come forward and give us that information. Very, very important that we get that information so we can make the right decisions about where to proceed from here. I can tell you we've been conducting interviews during the day. We're already quite heartened to hear that there are a number of people out there who are appalled by this conduct who are willing to come forward and talk to us. So I encourage people to talk to us. We encourage people to work with us, to let us get to the bottom of what has happened here. We remind people that there's a lot we don't know and need to know. We remind people that there's an awful lot we do know. We'll be able to verify what people tell us. But we ask that the press, in particular, recognize that we're not casting aspersions on people other than the 2 people we charge, and bear that in mind and be responsible. And with that, I'd like to turn the microphone over to Rob Brent, the special agent in charge. I want to thank the assistant U.S. attorneys who work night and day in this case. We especially want to thank the FBI agents who monitored bug and the wiretap and did all sorts of work over the last few months on top of the work they've done for years, and their partners at IRS, Postal, and Labor. Thanks.
Thanks, Pat. I know you all have a lot of questions, so I'm not going to make this long. Today certainly is a new low in the state of Illinois. A little over 2 years ago, the U.S. Attorney and myself stood up here and talked about the conviction of a former governor and hoped that conviction would send a clear signal to elected officials in Illinois that business as usual will no longer be tolerated, that selling your office for personal gain is a practice of the past. It's obvious by this complaint, by today's charges, that this current governor did not get that message. I got here 4 years ago. A lot of you were in the audience asking the question of whether or not Illinois is the most corrupt state in the United States. And I didn't answer that question yes or no, and I can't answer that question today. I don't have 49 other states to compare it to. But I can tell you one thing. If it isn't the most corrupt state in the United States, it's certainly one hell of a competitor. This wiretap, I can tell you, from the FBI agents that participated in this wiretap investigation, were thoroughly disgusted and revolted by what they heard. And I think even the most cynical agents in our office were shocked. I want to thank them. They put a lot of countless hours in, as did the prosecutors, a lot of weekends, a lot of holiday times away from their family. They worked tirelessly to bring this to a successful conclusion. To them goes the credit. Thanks.
Mr. Fitzgerald, was this done today in an effort to head off the appointment of someone to fill Barack Obama's Senate seat? Was it so imminent that that's why you had to step in?
I would say that we decided that this required unusual measures, and there were a lot of things going on that were imminent. There's a bill sitting on the desk that we think a person who is supporting that bill has been squeezed to give $100,000. And to let that bill be signed, to me, would be very, very troubling. There's a hospital, Children's Memorial Hospital, believing that it's getting $8 million when its CEO has not coughed up a campaign contribution. And the thought that that money may get pulled back from a Children's Memorial Hospital is something that you cannot abide. There is an editor that they'd like fired from the Tribune. And I laid awake at night worrying whether I'd read in the paper in the morning that when there were layoffs, that we'd find out that that person was laid off. The complaint lays out in the fact that when there were layoffs, there were conversations to find out whether the editor who they thought he should be fired was fired, and he wasn't. And the governor was asking whether there'd be more layoffs. So we have a governor in this modern times, the only one who's looking for more layoffs. You take that, what's going on, and add it to the fact that we have a Senate seat that seemed to be, as recently as days ago, auctioned off to the highest bidder for campaign contributions. And Governor Blagojevich's own words on the tape above that set forth in the complaint talked about selling this like a sports agent.
Couldn't he still?
So we stepped in for a number of reasons. Basically, as I said before, we're in the middle of a corruption crime spree, and we wanted to stop it.
Patrick,
In your view,
Patrick, you said twice. You said twice.
Let me just say one thing. If we're going to stay here, as long as this is productive, you're not on a clock. We want to dispel any misperceptions. So don't feel like anyone's got to yell to get a question.
Let's deal with the misperception. And you said twice that we shouldn't cast aspersions on people who we think we recognize within the complaint. Does that mean that all of these people are beyond blame in any way? I mean, some of the things in the complaint point a very kind of a tacky finger at some people, their willingness to play. And if pay to play is illegal, isn't the willingness to play also culpable, even if you didn't charge today?
What I'm trying to say is this. Look, we never give, and I think anyone who's from Chicago knows, you've heard it 1,000 times, we don't give clean bills of health. And what I've always been afraid of is if you say, did Carlos or me, or we in trouble? I'm never going to say no, because that's just our practice. But I don't want people, when they answer those questions, to imply that someone is in trouble. What I'm trying to do is explain caution about a complaint. When someone says something that's on tape, largely they're stuck with it. But when someone says something on tape about someone else, you usually want to do more investigation to verify what it is that happened. And we're going to do that investigation and verify what it is that happened, what didn't happen, what the circumstances are. There may be people who had no idea what was going on, had no idea they were being discussed. There may be other people who were involved in things they shouldn't have been involved in, and we're going to sort that out. And we're going to see, some things will be black and white and some things will be shades of gray. And what we wanted to make clear is that a complaint sets forth charges against the governor and Mr. Harris, and we put in their mindset. So if what they understand when they're scheming is important to the probable cause of what they were planning to do when they schemed. We'd like to see what schemes were carried out or not, who made contributions or didn't, that sort of thing. And for that, we don't draft complaints with that in mind. And we want people to take what we say with more than a grain of salt, with a whole lot of salt. But we're saying we're going to go out and going to do an investigation. If other people did wrong, we'll deal with that.
in your view,
Please address one thing. That is, when Rod Blagojevich walks out of here today, unless I'm mistaken about the Constitution of Illinois, he will still be governor. He will still have the power to make the appointment to the Senate seat. He will still have the power whether or not he's going to sign the bill that you're concerned about. Also, would you address the fact, and I know you referred to this, would you just address whether or not President-elect Obama was aware that any of these things were taking place?
Okay. I'm not going to speak to what the President-elect was aware of. We make no allegations that he's aware of anything, and that's as simple as I can put it. The first part, my understanding is that he is the sitting governor of Illinois today, now, and that is not something we have any say in or control over. So at the end of the day, he will be the sitting governor.
But you believe so that you could intervene because you were afraid something was going to happen with this Senate seat that retained it. He still has the power to do that.
Yes, and when there's a bunch of people scheming in private, and they think no one's listening and no one's aware of it, they can do a heck of a lot more than when someone goes and basically raids the crime in plot and airs what's going on, and people know what we're aware of. And if I were someone who wanted to pay to play, I think this would be about the worst time to try to make a cash contribution to someone to get something illegal. And there's a lot to be said for exposing this to the sunlight. So this is a criminal prosecution that we will see through the court system. He is presumed innocent. But I was not going to wait until March or April or May to get it all nice and tidy and then bring charges and then say, by the way, all this bad stuff happened because no one was aware of it back in December. I think that would be irresponsible.